This is the Cliff Yates Show. Personal growth, motivation, inspiration, and philosophies for a great life.
Hey everybody, welcome to the podcast. This is the Cliff Yates Show, and we just got back from Las Vegas, Nevada, and we were there for the Baker to Vegas Challenge Cup Relay Race. It's one of the largest law enforcement foot races in the world. As a matter of fact, there are teams from all over the world. And my bonus son, I have two bonus sons. I don't like to call them stepsons. They're my bonus sons because they had a father in their life, and so I was more of a mentor in their life, more of a big brother kind of thing. But hey, two of them are in are members of the LA Sheriff's Department, and the middle son, he ran in this Baker to Vegas relay race. He's over 30 now, but he did it fantastic, and we had such a great time. I hadn't been to this race in over 4 years. I'm not a runner myself. My wife is a big runner, and she used to run for the women's elite team, and she always was one of the top runners. I think she ran a leg that was 6-7 miles, and a lot of it was uphill, and she ran it between 6 and 7 minute miles. So she's a fast runner. I am not a good runner. I don't like to run. I did run in the race at one time. And to give you a little history of this Baker to Vegas race, which started in 1985. The Challenge Cup Baker to Vegas relay race was the vision of LAPD officers Chuck Foote and Larry Moore. It was spawned following the format laid by the LAPD Metro Division's Death Valley Relay, which came to an abrupt end in 1985 after a 7-year stint of running through Devil's Graveyard. Now, the Baker to Vegas Challenge Relay Race, it's a 120-mile race, and there are teams, and when I say there are law enforcement teams from all over the world. This year they had a great team who did very well from Berlin. They've had teams from Italy. You name the country, and they send teams to this race in Las Vegas. This year there was over 5,000 runners, and all of these teams, they're made up of 20 runners who run these 20 legs, and the legs vary from 4 miles to 7-8 miles, and they run through the night. They stagger the start times in Baker, and it starts early in the afternoon, and it runs throughout the whole night and doesn't end until the next morning. And these teams train, some of them all year, and some 6, 7, 8 months they get together to train. And, some of the big competitors that really battle back and forth in this race is the LA Sheriff's Department, of course, who have been number one numerous times. LAPD, of course, California Highway Patrol, the FBI. They seem to be always in the top. And this year it was NYPD winning the race. Unbelievable. And my bonus son, who was very humble, I was told by numerous deputy sheriffs that if he hadn't run his leg under 6 minute miles, and he made up 4 miles and passed the California Highway Patrol runner, which put the LA Sheriff's Elite Team in third place, which puts them on the podium. First, second, and third gets to go on the podium, receive a big plaque, and the number one team, they get to go on the podium and they get a great big trophy, and the name of the team and the year they won is put on a bronze plaque, which stays on that trophy forever. And for that year, the team gets to keep that big trophy. And for many years, it went back and forth between the LA Sheriff and LAPD. And then CHP came along and they won, and they became a big competitor in the open division. There's a bunch of divisions. There's station divisions, jail divisions. There's mixed divisions. There's civilian and sworn divisions. There is the women's elite team. And this year, the women's team was won. LAPD women won this year. And I think LA Sheriff was third, if I'm not mistaken. But it's just great to be. So after the race is over, which ends in the morning, then that afternoon is a big awards ceremony. So everybody, not only are the 5,000 runners in this big convention center, but then so you're going to have all the support vehicles. You're going to have family. You're going to have friends. You're going to have people that are selling merchandise, police, law enforcement merchandise in the convention center. And it's just great to have this whole group of family, law enforcement families together, and just interacting, all these teams from all over the world, different countries, and family and friends, seeing the camaraderie and the fellowship of law enforcement. And so it was great to be there, not only to see my bonus son do so well on the team, but it was also great to see so many of my brothers and sisters who many are still working, and many who have also retired like myself, who were there to see the race. So it really is a celebration of law enforcement, not just a competitive race. So it was a great ceremony where they have the LAPD. They play the bagpipes come through, and there's in memoriam, and there's a big screen, and we remember those that we've lost over the past year, and just a celebration not only of the race and all those involved, but also a celebration of those who we've lost from law enforcement. Just pro-police stuff. And boy, I tell you, when you look around, and I'm just so reminded of how great all of our law enforcement agencies around the country are. And of course, if you go by the news, and obviously we've seen on video that we've had some horrific cases of police misconduct, and no one hates bad cops and police misconduct more than good cops. And it's just a lie that people tell in the news, especially that there's systemic racism in the police community. Just a total lie. And if you could see the family of police officers in this convention center, it was just very heartwarming to me to see my brothers and sisters who I haven't seen, and just people who I didn't know, but just to see young, old, and these officers are moms, daughters, sisters, brothers, fathers, sons, and generation after generation coming together. So it's a great thing. Although I'm not a runner, I did run in this race once when I was working at Men's Central Jail. One of the divisions is called the 800 team, which means the 20 runners on the team, the ages have to add up to 800 years or more. And so they needed my age. So I did train for this, although, I have duck feet and it's just hard for me to run. I cannot run fast at all. But I trained for several months, and, I got up to about a 9-minute mile. I mean, that's about as good as I could do. And but they just needed my age because I was in mid-50s. And so if they have a couple of 50-year-olds, then they can have a couple young bucks on the team. They can run really fast. So they needed my age to help the team, and I was glad to do it. But my leg ran around, I forgot what number it was, but it ran around 2 a.m. And sometimes out in that desert between Baker and Las Vegas, the winds whip up late at night, and it's a sandstorm. Now, I wore, I don't know what happened to my regular goggles, but I had a dive mask on to protect my eyes. I was still wearing at the time contact lenses. So let me tell you that when those winds whip up with that sand, even if you don't wear contacts, it is hell on your eyes. So I had this dive mask on, and I look like a goofball. I'll tell you the truth. I wish I had a picture here. But so I did run in the race, and I was happy that that was something I had never done, and I'd already been in the department 25 plus years. So one final thing to do before I retired, and my wife has run it several times. She's in big demand because she is such a fast runner. She was in her late 40s the last time she ran it, and she was one of the top females of the whole women's team for the LA Sheriff's Department. She is so fast, still to this day, and she's a great. And all her sons are great runners. They're all cross-country stars, and so just wasn't my thing. But it was great to go to the race this year out in Las Vegas, and see everybody that I hadn't seen in so many years. And also, of course, if you're listening on a podcast platform, you can't see this, but later go to the YouTube channel, the Cliff Yates channel, and under the podcast playlist and check it out. Here's what you get if you're in, I think it's the top 10 teams in each division. You get these mugs, and everybody, from different departments, they have these big mugs that have the Baker to Vegas, relay race, and it has the list of all the teams and the years that they won. So, that's something as a keepsake you get. And radio personality Pete Demetrio from Los Angeles was emceeing the ceremonies as he's done probably for the past 25 years or more, and he does a great job. So that's where we were this past weekend out there in Las Vegas. And Las Vegas, it seems as though the city itself has come back full circle as far as tourism. It was really packed. There was several things going on in town. Not only do you have the plus 5,000 runners, plus teams, families, support group, but also there was a couple of big bands in town. Luke Bryan was playing. He was at a residence that he has in one of the casinos. The Red Hot Chili Peppers were playing, and we went to the T-Mobile Center our first night in Vegas to see Depeche Mode from the 1980s, and they sounded great. I only remembered a couple of their songs, but my wife was a big fan of Depeche Mode. I'm not a big fan, but I did enjoy the concert. They were great. And T-Mobile Center in Las Vegas is a great venue to see a concert. We've seen Billy Joel there, and that's where the hockey team for Las Vegas plays. So it's a great venue. And so the town in Las Vegas was packed and busy. There were a lot of homeless that I saw on the Strip, and it was pretty clean. Like I said, seemed like there was quite a bit of homeless on the sidewalks, and a lot of marijuana smoking, apparently, because every time we were outside, there was just the strong smell of marijuana was wafting everywhere we went. And I'm pretty sure you're not supposed to smoke in the casinos anymore, but they do. At least walking through, they smoke. And, there was a lot of smoke in those casinos. If you're not used to it. So, that was not good. And it was funny. We were staying at the Hilton Grand Vacations Inn behind the Flamingo. And there was 2 warm days, 75. And so the pool at the Flamingo was happening. And then our last 2 days in Vegas, the high was 45 to 50. And, to us from Florida, it was cold. But, yeah, it was a good time. But it was funny to see in the Flamingo. Wayne Newton he has a room now in the Flamingo, but he's in the small room where they used to have a comedian for many years. But it's the small showroom. And then RuPaul is in the large showroom where George Wallace used to be, and Donnie and Marie Osmond used to have their show. And Wayne's in the little showroom, and that was just weird to see. He was Mr. Las Vegas for so many years at the Stardust, and just one of the biggest names as far as entertainers in Las Vegas. But he has been losing his voice. We saw him about 10 years ago, and his voice was failing him. He didn't have the resonance. It sounded pretty much the same, but almost he was forcing it. And so he's one of my favorite entertainers. I've seen him 4 times. But he's in the small show. We didn't get to see him, but maybe I got to see him soon. He's 80 years old, but still doing it. Mr. Las Vegas, Wayne Newton, still doing it in Vegas. So we had a great time seeing my fellow police officers, seeing my bonus son run in the race, hooking up with some of my fellow brothers and sisters in law enforcement, and meeting a lot of new people also that are still not, they're in it, they're doing it, they're still working the streets, still working the jails, they're still doing their police work. I got to see one of my trainees that I trained on the LA Sheriff's Department back in 1990, 89, 90. And he rose in the ranks of the department up through, I don't know if he was, I think he was a commander, or maybe he was an assistant sheriff, but he is now the Huntington Beach Police Chief. So he retired from the LA Sheriff's Department, and now he is the police chief for the Huntington Beach Police Department. So that was great to see. It was great to see him, meet him and his wife. And so that's where we were this weekend. I just thought I'd bring that up because that's what's happening in our lives. And I wanted to highlight law enforcement in a positive light just because my career in memories of, to me, one of the greatest departments in the world is the LA Sheriff's Department. It's funny because a lot of the reforms that they talk about today to make policing better, we were doing in the LA Sheriff's Department 25 years ago. More than 20 years ago, we had mental health people riding along with us. We had deputies riding with mental health people. And if somebody was believed to be mentally ill, that they would come out and do an assessment before we took police action and forcefully took them to a mental facility. We called for a civilian mental health person to come to the scene of the call and do an assessment before we took law enforcement action. These are things that people are putting forth today as resolutions to revolutionize policing in a new way that we were already doing. Well, we did a lot of cultural diversity training, and the Sheriff's Department in Los Angeles, this is back in the 90s, did their best to make sure that the Sheriff's Department, 10,000 strong, was a direct reflection of the demographics of LA County. So the department was made up just about of 60% Hispanic and maybe 15% white, and about another 15% black, 5% Asian, and then 3, 4, 5% other. And so that's the mix that we had. And then we would have training to learn about different cultures and how to communicate better. And we also were under a lawsuit, a consent decree from a sexual harassment case that went on for many years, and I ended up being part of the training. And so we had a revolutionary sexual harassment policy that was overlooked by the courts at the time. So we made a lot of inroads in being very progressive, I think, probably ahead of a lot of the country. But certainly it's just to see the lies that have come out over law enforcement. And, of course, we've seen a lot of misconduct. And like I said before, nobody hates bad cops or misconduct by cops than good cops because they erode public trust. And we can't have that because we can't operate efficiently unless we have public trust. And now there's no more trust, and the judicial system has gone to hell. And so I wanted to report on my trip to Baker to Vegas because it was such a positive trip to meet with my fellow law enforcement officers. And I can tell you from my experience that the police officers that are still working and working now are vibrant, and they are positive, and they're out there doing the job at a tough environment with less resources and less fellow officers to assist them, with a judicial system that is not backing them up, but they're out there doing it. And I got good feelings from meeting with a lot of them and hearing some of their stories. And so hopefully we're on the road back to the country being greater and greater. And so that's the podcast this week. We were at the Baker to Vegas Police Relay, one of the largest foot races of law enforcement agencies from around the world, and they have it in the desert every spring for the past 30 plus years, from 1985 till now. And so, all right, everybody, if you've been watching on the YouTube channel, please subscribe to the channel. And if you think somebody might like to hear about this Baker to Vegas race and my fellow police officers, share this video with them. Please subscribe to the channel. And if you're listening on a podcast platform, subscribe to the podcast so you're notified when the next episode comes out, because we got some great stuff coming out in the future. And I'm talking about, I got some pretty great guests that are going to join me. I'm Cliff Yates, everybody.